Hello, welcome to Secure the Continent, News Central Television. I am Gbenga Aborowa. This is the program where we bring you up to speed with all the security happenings on the African continent. But before we delve into our major topic of discussion today, let me first bring you the major security headlines across the continent. M23 rebels pull out of Rumangabo Army base in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Chad says it foiled a coup attempt by a group of soldiers and human rights activists. And in East Africa, 6 killed by armed fighters during village raid in Somalia. And staying in East Africa, at least 16 people die after bus crashes in northern Uganda. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Prosecutors in Burkina Faso earlier this week announced that the bodies of 28 men killed by gunfire have been found in the northwestern town of Nuna. An investigation has been launched into the killings, which were discovered on 30th of December and the 31st of December. Prosecutors also revealed in a statement that did not provide any details on the possible perpetrators or motive for the attacks. The West African country is currently battling a violent jihadist insurgency that has spread from neighboring Mali over the past decade, with thousands killed and millions displaced. We have more details for you in this package.
Burkina Faso is one of Africa's most promising nations, blessed with a large expanse of land, which takes a good chunk of the Sahel. It is a country that has always faced challenges each time it takes a crack at progress. On September 30, 2022, Burkina Faso faced what was its second coup attempt in 9 months when soldiers ousted transition president Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba. Although coup attempts are often seen in West Africa, Burkina Faso has a history of its politics dipped in coup and military leadership. What has followed the successful coup masterminded by Captain Ibrahim Traoré has been a country battling with its old, enduring struggles. Violent extremism is one of Burkinabe's greatest threats. In the wake of its current government, extremism has become even more excessive. The military and the homeland protectors have struggled to contain a fast deepening problem. Last weekend, prosecutors reported that 28 men were killed by yet-to-be-known perpetrators, an investigation that has been launched, and the government called for calm pending the outcome. Burkina Faso's insurgency has continued to spread across neighboring countries, with thousands killed and many more displaced. Political instability often invites enemies, and it leaves room for anti-state forces to penetrate and wreak havoc. In an attempt to salvage the situation, the government has formed the Homeland Defense Volunteers, recruiting civilians into its ranks to fight militant. While militant activities have killed thousands of people and displaced more than 2 million, what does Burkina Faso have to do to settle its troubled streets? What's the hope of the Burkinabe?
Now, joining me to discuss violent extremism in Burkina Faso today on the program, I have Dr. Daniel Kere, as a lecturer and researcher of law and political science at the Thomas Sankara University. And I also have Mousbaou Shittou, a journalist. Both join me from the Burkinabe capital, Ouagadougo. Shittou, thanks for joining me on the program.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Now let's start with this incident that happened in Nuna. Recently, the bodies of 28 men killed by gunfire have been found in the northwestern Burkina Faso town of Nuna. What were the circumstances that led to their deaths, and what do we know so far?
Thank you so much. It has been a sad moment and sad news when we hear that news from our people from Nuna, northern part of Burkina. 28 people lost their life in these attacks. And so far, what we have heard from people, this attack has been occurred by homeland defense volunteers that since now we hope should be the hope of the nation. Those people should at least be with the armed forces then to help to fight against terrorism in Burkina Faso. But we still believe that, we still give them the benefit of that they didn't do what it is said that they have done. But all the information we got so far said this attack has been perpetrated by those people.
Now, talking about those people, I bet you're referring to the Homeland Defense Volunteers. The Burkinabe Civil Society Organization, CISE, blamed the Nuna attacks on armed civilians masquerading as members of the Homeland Defense Volunteers, VDP. Who are the VDP, and can you shed more light on their operations?
Thank you so much. Those Homeland Defense Volunteers, they have been repeated when we are having problems with the effective of our armed forces here in Burkina. So it has been launched so far by former President Sankara, and it has been continued by those people came after him, former President Damiba and the current President Traore. Then they have been called so far to help our army in defending the land. Talking about the Homeland Defense Volunteers, we have two types of them. We have the national one, those who can move around Burkina Faso, and now we have the community Homeland Defense Volunteers, those who can stay in their own community and help the army, and also the areas where they are not armies, they can help also to defend all the corners of the community. So this year with the president.
No, go ahead. Please.
So this year with the president Ibrahim Traore, they have launched 50,000 Homeland Defense Volunteers. So what I'm going to say is that even with the effective of those people already on the field, they are still needed, and the 50,000 more Homeland Defense Volunteers will be very soon on the field.
So, I mean, from what you said, I can get that they're kind of useful and they support the army in its operations. But this incident in Nuna, although we don't have all the facts available yet, do they have a central command? Do they take their orders from the army? And what is the official position on the attacks that took place in Nuna? Has the government given an official response yet?
Normally, they are taking the command from the army, because they are working under the army, and then they are taking the orders from the army. It's only the army who give them the guidelines where to go and where to operate, and the necessary thing they need, like weapons and others. But what happens, those people sometimes are operating through what comes to their mind. It's so sad. It's so sad. In some part of Burkina, those people are just operating according to the willing and the wish. They are operating according to what they believe in. Sometimes they are not taking into account the army before operating, and this is the sad part of those people. Now, with what happened in Luna, we hope that it's linked to our ethical problems too. Then when it's come to that area, it's really complicated. So when you are mixing terrorism with people, then you have a serious problem in guiding the Homeland Defense Volunteers.
Quite a complex situation there. Mousbaou, thanks for your submission. I'd like to bring in our second guest on the program, Dr. Daniel Kere, as a lecturer with the Thomas Sankara University in the Burkinabe capital, Ouagadougo. One welcome to you, Dr. Kere, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Now, Dr. Kere, can you give us a context and background to how we got to where we are in the first place? How did Burkina Faso go from being spared most of the jihadist attacks in the Sahel to the epicenter in less than a decade?
I think that this phenomenon is has an historical links in Burkina Faso. Under Blaise Compaoré regime, the terrorists was in Burkina Faso and they was conducting attacks in Mali, in Niger. After after the ruling of Blaise Compaoré, I think that there was some kind of revenge for this terrorism that were chased from Burkina Faso. And so the attacks started in 2016 under Kabore ruling. And year by years, I think that it is the worst situation that we are facing now. But what I can say is that we have tried many cases of solutions under Rockmark Christian Kabore, under Damiba, and now under the young captain, Mr. Traoré. But we can say that at this time, probably the situation is progressively getting in favor of the ruling regime, given that the militaries are conducting now more attacks on terrorism. But in the former time, it was the inverse situations, where after the terrorists many times attacks our militaries, but things are changing progressively. But it is very soon to speak that to say that
it's too early to tell, right?
Overcoming of this terrorism phenomenon.
Now, Dr. Kere, staying with you, what do you think led to the killings we saw in Nuna? Was that the volunteer forces fighting terrorists? Because 28 is quite a large number. What do you think happened in Nuna?
I think that it is an ethnical problem, as my friend said, but it is not the first time. We have already faced these situations in 2019, I think. It was the same case. Fulani groups are suspected to conduct or to be terrorists, you see, and if there are terrorist attacks in a village, the villagers try to, it is some kind of revenge, you see. I think that Fulani against local persons, I think that it is the sense of killing persons in Nuna.
Yeah, but then when volunteer forces take laws into their hands, when there's no justice, it does have it's going to create an endless cycle of violence because they will then sympathize with the terrorist cause. Do you think...
It is not obvious that these attacks was conducted by the volunteers.
Yes.
It is some kind of ethnic conflicts, but not in greater, but very slowly is what I can say. But you cannot say that it is only the volunteers that conducted this attack. But what I want to mean is that, but sometimes we can face some attacks conducted by militaries or by volunteers that is not under the law, you see. But in this case, I think that the rule must, the state must punish these persons. What I can say is that, but in Nuna, we cannot say that it is only the volunteers that conducted this action.
Thank you, Dr. Kere. Now, Mousbaou, what factors have contributed to the increase in extremist violence in Burkina Faso? We do understand that, you know, this violence was there, but they were using Burkina as a launch pad to carry out attacks in neighboring Mali. So why has the government failed to provide security? Since Blaise Compaoré, you've had the government of Christian Macabore, the civilian government. You've had Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Damiba. And we also have the new government of Ibrahim Traoré, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. So why has government failed to provide security for the people of Burkina Faso?
Well, this is a critical problem, you know. This is an interesting question, you know. First of all, I would say now we are doing better with the president, Ibrahim Traoré. We are moving forward in this area of securitizing the communities. But sincerely speaking, you know, when you are in a country when we lack the support of the population, then you will always have problems. we have a serious problem of communications. When the population is not providing the full information about those people, they are living with us, and then it's a serious problem. When you know your enemy, then you can get ready and be well prepared to fight against him. But this time around, the problem is really it's not the case here in Burkina. Those people are our brothers, they are living with us. Then it's complicated. If you don't have the support of the population, it's really, really complicated. And secondly, talking about the difference from Rochmark Kabore to Ibrahim Traoré, we still have the same problem. Each one of them came from a purpose. Instead of fighting sometimes against terrorism, they came with the purpose. With the President Damiba, it was the national reconciliation. Then with Rochmark Kabore, we were really losing the territories. But anyway, we believe if they continue working under the path, working in this area, working where the others have started, but unfortunately, those people came without working in the path that has been worked before by the former presidents. But we believe so far with President Ibrahim Traoré, everything will change because now we're doing better. Instead of waiting to be killed by the terrorists, now we are going forward and tracking those people.
So taking the fight to the terrorists, a different approach by Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Now, Dr. Kere, let's talk about the international community. Organizations such as the United Nations have been involved. Have they been involved in addressing the issue of violent extremism in Burkina Faso? And also, the departure of the French Operation Barkhane in Mali, has it had any impact on the rise in extremist violence in Burkina Faso?
Let me smile. I think that the power of this regime of Captain Traoré is that he's using nationalism as the way to fight terrorism. Nationalism, given that he's trying to say to Burkina people that we are proud and we can overcome terrorism by ourselves. You see, what we need is the support of information, the support of weapons. But in the past, we have French support, but the terrorism continue to move ahead. What is the real impact of French support? This is the main problem of French militaries being in Africa. Many persons think that French is not, their friendship is not fair. Why you can be friends, you have a lot of planes, a lot of drones, but you cannot see the terrorism, you cannot overcome the terrorism. So their departure, I think, could be in some way useful for our regime, given that many persons believe that French are supporting slowly the terrorism. You see, if the terrorism support does not exist again, I think that it is a good solution for our regime. Secondly, what we can say is that our Captain Traoré is trying to get the support of Mali, the support of Russia, you see, with planes, with informations, and it is a new dynamic that can produce results on the ground. And I think that progressively, but if it is very soon to talk about a good result, but progressively, the militaries are gaining good results on the ground.
Now, Dr. Kere, you mentioned the Russian influence there, because if you had been looking at the pictures, I did spot some Russian flags in Ouagadougo following the ascension to power of Captain Ibrahim Traoré. You did say that the French presence in Burkina Faso did not produce a lot of positive results because the terrorists are still there. And now the Burkinabe government is looking at closer ties with Bamako and also Russia. But the West and the European Union and the French are very critical of Russian presence in Africa. Do you think the presence of Russian troops or the Wagner group will improve the situation in Burkina Faso? Is that the kind of, and in the same breath, you talked about nationalism. Should Burkina Faso be seeking that sort of partnership? And do you think that the government doesn't have the capacity to end terrorism by itself?
Let me smile again. You see, Captain Traoré has not chased the Western countries' militaries. They're gone by themselves. They say that they don't want to be in a place where is a Wagner group. But let me be honest, all the big countries in the world always use mercenaries. USA use mercenaries, French use mercenaries, China use mercenaries, every country use mercenaries. So by saying that they don't want to be in the same place as Wagner group, I think that it is not clear. What is the reason? Burkina Faso is a sovereign country, so we can choose to be a partner, even with a country or with a militia group. Mm-hmm. Secondly, we don't say that we want military troops in Burkina Faso. Let me be honest, we don't need Russia military troops in Burkina Faso. What we need is weapons and information, you see. But given that we have Western countries support, but they cannot see the terrorists. Let me be honest, something is not clear in this domain. If Russia can see the terrorists in the forest or everywhere in Burkina Faso and give information to our military groups, I think it is a better situation. Secondly, if they can provide us with weapons, with planes, with drones, to fight terrorism, I think that it is a good solution. With the Western countries, they don't provide us all these tools. So if you were in the shoe of Burkina Faso, you will do that. And Burkina Faso has an advantage given that it is a small country. Given that it is a small country, it is many easier to secure this country. So we have approximately the same size of population as Mali or as Niger. But Mali and Niger are big countries. Our country is very small, you see. So if you have proper weapons and we have proper information, we can overcome this terrorism, even if it is in partnership with Russia, with Mali, even if it is in partnership with France, with USA. I think that if the Western country want to be honest, one partner can produce results, two partners can produce two more results, three partners can produce three more results. Where is the problem?
And as an independent country, Burkina Faso should be allowed to make its own decisions, and they do have the free will to do that. Now, let me bring in Mousbaou. Earlier this week, Mousbaou, still talking about the French and Burkina Faso relations. Earlier this week, Burkina Faso's military government asked France to recall its ambassador to Ouagadougo. What were the circumstances behind this call? And what's the current situation with regards to the French ambassador to Burkina Faso?
Thank you so much. I will not say I was so happy when we hear this news, but like my Dr. Kere was saying, in Burkina, what we need now is a fair and faithful partnership collaboration. That's all. All what we need is to be really honest with all our partnership, and we need that in return.
So what happened with the French ambassador? Yes.
Talking about that issue, it occurs during the feast with the Christmas, coming of Christmas. The French ambassador sent a message to the people living in Burkina that we will have a serious attack in a community called Ouagadougo here in Burkina, and it called the French people living in that area to come back to Ouagadougo or in Bobo-Dioulasso, which are the great cities of the Burkina, because they hear that they will have an attack in that area of Burkina, which was not true. Here, those living in Burkina didn't have the information. The government doesn't have that information. And it was painful that people are talking about...
But you could also look at it in the other side of it, that maybe it's because, the French authorities raised this alarm and then the terrorists or the security operators were able to thwart this. I mean, there might be another side to this. Or you don't
Frankly
think so?
Speaking, this is not the first. I don't think so. This is not the first time we hear this kind of information coming from the France embassy towards Burkina. Given fake news, we really qualify this as a fake news. because those people are living, I mean, in security. They don't have any problem. And we don't, even around the community of Ouagadougo, there is no problem. And we believe there is nothing. Why making this is a psychological problem we are living also. Even we are given information, even our government doesn't have the information. Even if it was true, I believe they could at least give the information to our government, has a fair partner, a fair collaborator. They could give the information to the government and they will work on it. But giving the information online to all the people of, France living in Burkina, that you have to leave that that area and come back to Ouagadougo or Mobodio for Christmas and New Year. I think it was so sad. It was so sad. What about those people living? What about those people living in that area? Do they want them also to leave the area? Why they don't even have any attack yet? So,
thank you, Mousbaou. I'd like to get Dr. Kere's take on this. Do you think the French security warning came in handy or is alarmist, as Mousbaou have suggested?
I believe that there is a kind of terrorism by fear. You see, during the last week of 2022 in Burkina Faso, we have faced a problem of fuel, energy. You see, of gas.
Yes.
Let me say that. So it is not the only problem of terrorism. I think that there is some kind of what we call in French complotism. You see, that have to bring fear in the country, panic, some kind of panic in the country, even to present this country as a falling country, as the country is falling apart. I think that this is the main problem of this ambassador and the former organization on ONU, Mrs. Menzi. You see, Mrs. Menzi problems. So this ambassador, let me be honest, but if you have this information, you should provide this information to the government to say that we have information that terrorism is here, and the government will take decision to fight this terrorist. You cannot bring this information in the public place. To what is the objective? This is the main problem. Secondly, I think that there are some reasons that could not be revealed in the public. You see, probably Captain Traore and his team have other informations that they would not like to be published. And I think that
for national security reasons, yes.
Yes, obviously. I think that it is better for them to say that the ambassador Luc Alade is not welcome no more in our country.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kere. This is a fine place to go on a break. If you just join us, you're watching Secure the Continent on News Central Television, and we've been looking at the growing threat of extremism in Burkina Faso. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion with our esteemed panelists. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.
News Central TV, Africa's #1 storyteller, has come with the best of both worlds. With a combination of news app and live TV, we ensure that you keep track of the latest headlines, breaking news, and in-depth analysis from professional journalists from around the continent. Download the News Central TV app on Android and iOS and get started today. Don't forget to follow us on News Central's social media platforms. News Central, Africa First.
Thanks for staying with us. If you're just joining, this is Secure the Continent. We've been discussing violent extremism that has been on the rise in post-coup Burkina Faso. I still have with me Dr. Daniel Kere, who's a lecturer, researcher of law and political science at the Thomas Sankara University in Ouagadougo, and Mousbaou Shittou, a journalist, also joining live from Ouagadougo, Burkina Faso. Now, I'll continue with you, Mousbaou. What is responsible for the growing anti-French sentiment that we see in West Africa? And do you see the French relationship with Burkina Faso deteriorating to a level where ties are cut like it happened in Mali? Because earlier this week, we did hear calls for the expulsion of the French ambassador to Burkina Faso.
Speaking, I think this is what will happen so far if we didn't change really the partnership and the collaboration between Burkina and France. You know, as we said earlier, we need a fair and faithful partnership with them. What we're trying to do, all what we need is them to provide us with weapons, provide us with information, and all what will be benefit from Burkina to fight against terrorism. We have been having them so far through the colonization until now, but it has been over 7 years now that we are facing terrorism in our dear beloved country. But where are we now? We're still somewhere trying to find a way out. So we believe if the truly want to collaborate with us, there's no problem. We don't want to chase them away if things were going, right. But unfortunately, it's not the case. From Sergio to Bakan, now with task and still continue with the same problem, lack of information, lack of good weapons to our people. And they don't even want us to be in partnership with Russia, and this is the terrible fact of this. You know, we are independent. We are an independent country. We should know which country and which country we can deal with. But now, if our dear France doesn't want us to partnership with Russia, then they should do what is needful and rightful in providing weapons, good weapons, not what they're just given 1999, I don't know, weapons that are given to the countries. They could at least
you want to see a results-oriented partnership.
That's it. That's all what we need. If they fails in that area, this is just the beginning. Now it started with the ambassador, then what next? We don't know.
Okay. Stay with you, Mousbaou. Captain Ibrahim Traore has said he will respect a democratic transition timeline agreed between his predecessor and ECOWAS, which is to restore civilian rule by July 2024. Realistically, and looking at the situation of things on the ground, is that enough time to address the security challenges in the country? And do you think elections are what the country needs right now?
I don't think so. This is not what we really need at the point we are now. The election is not really what we need, because those people are even asking myself a question. You know, the question is what? After this president, Ibrahim Traore, who are we going to elect as a president? Those people has been there. Those political parties have been there so far, 7 years now. They didn't provide any good information to help those former presidents to fight against terrorism. This is the only country we have. But so far,
Mousbaou, sorry to cut in there. Some will disagree with you. They will say the level of terrorism under Marc-Christian Kabore was not at this high. It's not as high as what we've seen under Damiba and Ibrahim Traore. What's your take on that?
I'm afraid to disappoint you. We'll have one of them called A.T. Kombrego from CDP. He said publicly that if we need him to collaborate, which is the former party of President Blaise Compaoré. This guy said publicly, if we need him to give, good information and good sources or good collaboration to the president, former president Roch-Marc Christian Kabore, we have to elect him as a president so that he can work as a president and fight against terrorism. Do we believe that we can have this kind of people as a president after Ibrahim Traore? It's so sad that we don't have much time for Ibrahim to work, but we believe with what he is doing so far, he has done so far in 3 months. He did even better than the former president Damiba, and we believe with the small time left, he will do better, and maybe we would expect the returns of democracy here in Burkina.
Okay, so far so good. The prospects looks good for Captain Ibrahim Traore. But let's talk about your neighboring country, Mali, and the departure of the French there. In what ways has the French withdrawal from Mali affected the security architecture of the region and, of course, Burkina Faso in particular?
Well, it's still the same problem they have been facing in the country in Mali, unfairness, unfaithful collaboration with those Balkans and all the government of France in nutshell, So they have not been able to operate in all areas of Mali. Let's take the example of Kigali. They have not been able to work in those areas, and which is a vital area for Mali. We have gold and everything there, but unfortunately, we have been able to cover all the country. But so far, like I said earlier, we have been with these people. It's been years now, but if you are not gaining from them, then the result is clear. You have to take the departure.
Now, Mousbaou, let's track back a bit before this terrorism, before Burkina Faso became the epicenter of terrorism in the Sahel. What did former President Blaise Compaoré, who's currently in exile, do to spare the country from the turmoil, and what did he do to keep Burkina Faso safe? Because all of this started with Marc Christian Kabore after Mr. Blaise Compaoré was chased away from power.
Well, it's not even a secret for all the Burkinabe now, because when former President Marc Christian Kabore came into power, he has been interviewed by RFI, which is
Radio France International.
Radio and for France International. Then it gives clear information. Former President Blaise Compaoré were in collaboration with those terrorism in keeping our country safe, from years when they were attacking Mali, our neighbor. Some of them were even, given apartments here in Ouagadougo so that they can be safe. They got more privilege from President Blaise Compaoré in giving them weapons, ordering weapons from abroad for them, ordering cars for them to operate in Mali, where those people were our neighbor. But all those years problems that they have been keeping away now finally come back on us, And former President Marc Christian Kabore has been clear in saying that we have been in partnership with them for so long. Now, in terms of, at the time of, former President Marc Christian Kabore, he refused in collaborating with them because they said, from what we heard, they said they have ordered cars under Blaise Compaoré. Now, when former President Marc Christian Kabore came into power, he refused to deliver those goods to them, then which is the starting of the problem. And so far, it has been now 7 years we have been facing terrorism in our country.
Interesting way to look at things. Blaise Compaoré paid for the peace of Burkina Faso by enabling this terrorist, and then a new president came and said, look, I'm not part of that deal, I won't want that. And that's why we find ourselves in this quagmire. Interesting take there. But let's look at the victims and the consequences of this conflict that has been raging for about 7 years now. According to a recent United Nations report, almost 1 in every 4 people in Burkina Faso, a country of 20 million people, need urgent humanitarian assistance. What are some of the effects on this conflict on the people and the economy of your country, Burkina Faso?
This is the sad part. This is the sad part of this terrorism issue. First of all, is the security crisis we have. This issue of terrorism made people fly from the area. Now the north and the east is not really. People cannot even live there. We have fear, and apart from fear, nobody, even the army, nobody really can try to go to those parts of Burkina. Then if you want to go to the north and the east, it's really days of work. You have to work hard, otherwise it will be a bomb attack there. But apart from the security problem we have now there. We really need a humanitarian head in Burkina, because people have been living in starving, and they are not being able to captivate. Even those who have been able to captivate, all their crops have been taken by the terrorists, and those who have been living through breeding, agriculture, they have not been able now to continue. More than 2 million people are now outside of their communities, and unfortunately, we cannot save everybody. With the little we gain, we just have a small country. With the little we gain in our country, we are not even able to take care of those people. So we really need help in the domain of humanitarian security and so on.
Quite a sad situation there, Mousbaou. Let me bring in Dr. Daniel Kere. We have him back online with us. Now, Dr. Daniel Kere, Burkina Faso is a country of very proud people, the upright people like Thomas Sankara christened it. What role as community leaders and civil society groups played in combating extremism in your country?
Okay, thank you very much. They are doing a great job for fighting terrorism and radicalism. If you take the religious leaders, they are trying to talk to people to underline the danger for being in the radicalism situation, or the danger of being in a terrorism group. Sometimes we have some discussions on TV, some message on TV by traditional leaders, and they are doing a great job for preventing the terrorism and radicalism. But they are not in a secure situation, given that it is the most enemy of the terrorism. The terrorist knows that they know that they cannot overcome our society. They cannot overcome a village without eradicating these leaders. You see, in some countries, in some parts of Burkina Faso, religious leaders have been killed, civil society leaders have been killed, but they are continuing to do their job. Sometimes we can see that some persons, some group of persons, civil society leaders can be also with the terrorists. This is the main danger for our country. But we can say that approximately, many persons know that in Burkina Faso, we must be together, we must stand together to fight terrorism.
Now, staying with you, Dr. Kere, let's talk about regional bodies like ECOWAS and the African Union. There's often a saying that, we need African solutions to African problems. ECOWAS is always there to impose sanctions when a coup happens, but the question is, what do they do to prevent this sort of situations from happening? How have regional bodies like ECOWAS and African Union, how have they contributed to helping Burkina Faso address the issue of violent extremism?
I believe that, honestly, these institutions are like shadows in this context. You see, ECOWAS in this context seems to be as a mercenary for the Western countries to dominate our countries. Let me be honest. If France or USA are not agree with you on some points, paradoxically, you can see that ECOWAS will try to impose the point of view of France, of USA. This is the main problem. Given that this institution, they are being under financial support of EU, please, and USA. They cannot be independent. This is the main problem of these institutions. In Burkina Faso, many persons believe that ECOWAS is not very useful for us. We have found the situation in Mali. They try to overcome the Mali regime. ECOWAS by itself, it appears like a mercenary for EU or for France or for USA. in our context, let me be honest, we are not waiting anything from ECOWAS, we are not waiting anything from United, from
You're not
Africa
expecting any
Union.
help from them? And
No, we are
yes.
not waiting anything.
Now, finally, Mousbaou, I'll let you have the last say. Quickly, as we end our discussion tonight, what should be the best approach to ending this violence and extremist violence in the country of Burkina Faso?
I think that...
Well, a lot needs to be done. A lot needs to be done. First of all, we need the full support from the population. You know, the country Burkina Faso has been undergoing a lot of problems. Then we need all the daughters and sons of the country to help Burkina to move forward in helping the government in the task. It is not an easy task, you know, but all what we need is the support of the population. And first of all, we have to believe that in Burkina, it's not only the Fulani that are operating as terrorists. We don't know all those people working in that domain of terrorism. Then we have to believe that it's not an ethical problem. It's terrorist. A terrorist is a terrorist. A terrorist is not equal to a Fulani. Then if we believe that in our communities, then we won't have this kind of ideas that all those terrorists operating here in Burkina are Fulanis. And if we eradicate that issue, I think we could live better life amongst ourselves in our communities. Then we'll produce a good result. And secondly, we need full information from the population to help the government in helping the government to work really efficiently in what they are trying to do. And we believe with the small times left for Ibrahim Traore, he will do a great job.
I'd like to say a big thank you to you, Mousbaou Shittou, and also Dr. Daniel Kere for being great company tonight on the Secure the Continent. I do appreciate your contribution and your time. Thank you. And my best wishes to the people of your great country, Burkina Faso.
Thank you.
Now, beyond the need to pursue and improve the military response to the growing insecurity in Burkina Faso, the government of Captain Ibrahim Traore should ensure that their actions do not undermine social cohesion and national reconciliation. In particular, the mobilization efforts should be accompanied by increased support for local approaches to dialogue. Thank you for watching, but remember to stay safe at all times. I'm Gbenga Aborowa. See you next time on Secure the Continent. Bye-bye.